right, so welcome everyone and hello again, Kate. We were just having a chat before I hit record for our for everyone on YouTube. So I have Kate Mason here, who is the personality coach. We only just met recently, virtually, and very soon, I think this week is it, I'm going to sort of be sharing about some emotional intelligence stuff on your podcast.
You are. I'm really looking forward to that.
I know. I'm really excited. I think when we first chatted, we just connected and gelled really easily, and we're on the same wavelength and things like that. So we're both sort of excited to swap and share, I guess, our knowledge. And today we're obviously talking about getting to know ourselves as people, as parents, as adults, and how that can help build our resilience. So let me introduce everyone to you, Kate, and give them a little bit of an understanding about what you do and who you are and all the amazing work that you do. And I know we're probably going to hear some stories and some wisdom and things from you today. But what I want to read out now is just a little bit about your background. So guys, if you don't know Kate, here is a little bit of her work and what she does. She's an international keynote speaker. She's a business owner, a qualified teacher. She's an MBTI presenter. You'll have to tell us what that is in a moment. And a coach and a podcaster. What's the name of your podcast again?
It's Parenting and Personalities.
Parenting and Personalities. Oh, I should have written that down.
That's okay.
And personalities. So not now, but afterwards, please go and find the Parenting Personalities podcast. Is it on all the podcasty platforms?
It is. It's on Apple and Spotify, and I'm aiming it more at parents now. Initially, it was at personalities. People understand their personalities. So if you're not sure how to, that's my beginning stuff. But I'm heading towards wonderful people like you and talking to people like you about parenting and all the different things around that. And I'm relating it back to your personality and how you might possibly parent your children using what you have to say and what your personality is.
Wow, that's huge. I think that's going to be absolutely transformative for a whole lot of parents. Really excited. So Kate is based in Adelaide, which is in South Australia. So like I said, for a little bit of a time difference for us, but nothing too crazy. She's been a successful businesswoman for over 30 years. She's also trained in personality profiling and is highly experienced in understanding the personality and the understanding of personality and performance. When she isn't busy trying to work out her own family and friends, she's assisting business, workplaces, and individuals to discover the impact that innate personality type and temperament play in their relationships. I'm so excited. I love this stuff.
That's good. So do I.
And in doing so, helping people create richer, happier, successful lives, and in all areas, personal, friendships, work, and business. Using facts, fun, and humor, Kate will help you find out why you are not always right. Love that. Well, at least help you to understand, why everyone else sees things differently.
That's right. You are always right secretly, I always say, but don't tell anyone that.
I love that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you say, deep down we all go, oh, but I was right, no matter whether you're nodding, I was right. So yes, yeah, very, very just different perspectives.
So that's it. Oh my gosh, already first takeaway, first golden nugget. We always feel that we are right, and it's all about perspectives, which is true, because I always say to parents, we can only see out of our own eyes. We are like each individual person, maybe you'll challenge me on this, is the center of their universe. Like I'm the center of my, does that make sense?
Absolutely. And my initial take on all of my workshops is the fact that you only view the world through your own lens. So, and that lens is created of your personality. It's part of your life experiences. So nobody else's lens on life is the same as yours. So when you look at the world, it's really hard for you often to see the world through someone else's eyes. And very often we don't really want to anyway, because we honestly do think that the way we see the world is the way that everybody else does. So this causes massive problems in communication, because people don't actually recognize that. They don't know it. They don't think that other people really see differently. So you end up with a whole lot of conflict, which is really, you can get rid of quite simply if you understand a whole lot of stuff. And there are some magnificent tools out there, such as the stuff that you do with the anxiety and EQ and things like that, that people can tap into. So my journey began 41 years ago when I got married to my husband. Well, actually, when I met my husband. So I was 19 and I met this guy, fell in love, wonderful. When I was 26, I married him. Now, he and I always argued a lot. And when my sister-in-law had been with us for an afternoon, and she said to me, she went home and then she rang me up and she said to me, oh, look, I think that you and Paul need this. And it was a book called Personality Plus. Now, it's probably going to be backwards on there.
No, it's
so
fine.
it's last night. It's backwards for me. Florence Littauer, magnificent. This lady's died at about 100 years old or whatever, but she looks at Hippocrates' temperaments. Okay, so Hippocrates forever, okay, he has been around. So temperament's been around. It's now been taken into a DISC, the DISC model of temperament, but that's a work model. This is actually talks about you as a human, you yourself at home, who you are. So there are 4 different temperaments, and you can be a mixture of 3, 2 or 3, or even just 1. So what happened was my husband and I read this book. There's a questionnaire in the front of it, and there's actually one online that you can do as well around this. So there's a questionnaire in the front of it. And what we discovered was we were actually 2 totally different temperaments. And this is, we sat down and looked at it, and my husband doesn't read, so I had to read him his whole chapter on who he was, because, often men don't read. I don't mean to be rude, but they don't. No time for that. That's ridiculous. And we realized that that was what was holding us back, because every decision that we were making was actually based around what he and I thought was right in our temperament. My husband is something called a choleric in this book. So the terms choleric, phlegmatic, melancholic, and sanguine are very of Hippocrates era. Okay. Yeah. So in
DISC, have they translated those names? Not translated. Have they created newer names, or are they still?
No, they haven't. So, well, those are still sitting there. DISC has created newer names. They've I can't remember theirs offhand. So I stick to that and I go, look, it's very phlegmy, phlegmatic kind of thing. But once you get used to them, it's cool. So what we did was, my husband is a man that likes things done immediately. Don't worry about having them perfect. Just get it done yesterday as fast as you can, and busy planning stuff all the time. Very short attention span, wants to get it done immediately. Now, for me, I love people. So I love going out, seeing people, having a good time. My life, I didn't want to think about all those hard problems all the time. So we had lots of friends because of me, and we had lots of business because of him. But we didn't realize that our arguments were actually all around the fact that we were both doing something the other didn't really want to do. So when we read this, we sat down and talked about it and said, well, look, if we're going to stay married, we're actually going to have to work on this and embrace the fact that these were things that we loved about each other when we first met. I loved the fact he was a dynamo, a human. But then as you go along, as you find out with love languages and stuff like that, that initial love kind of sometimes dissipates a little bit. And then all of a sudden you're left looking at each other going, what was it that we saw in each other to start with? So this was a fantastic moment for us. So look, don't get me wrong, 41 years we've been together. And it doesn't mean we don't fight. And it doesn't mean that we don't disagree over things, but it gives us a grounding for how we know and understand each other. So we can look at each other and go, oh, well, that's Paul, that's what he enjoys, that's what he wants. I don't necessarily agree with it, but at least we know who each other is. So what happened moving on from that was, I gave birth to a little boy when I was 32. And by the time he was 3, this kiddie had the neatest toy cupboard in town, right? So, and he didn't like thick change. He didn't like things to be moved. And I thought, my husband and I are very busy, very last minute personalities. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I got? So I went back to the book, and I have a little melancholic. Now, melancholics love structure. They love things done in order. They enjoy tidiness. They don't like to be rushed. So from that moment on, I knew what to do with my son. So, I mean, I did play with his head a little bit and move toys around just to see if he noticed, and he did. So that was part of being a wicked mother, but it was good fun. He'd come out and go, oh, did you move my car today? Yes, I did. Sorry, honey. Just thought I'd see, because it just fascinated me, because this is nothing like myself. So with him, as he grew up, he's now 29. As he grew up, my husband and I can race out of the house at the last minute at any time. But we realized that that was really stressful for him and for a quarter of the population of the world. So I would say to him, we're leaving in 15 minutes, get everything you need to do done, and then we'll go. So just knowing those little things about him was really, really important. And then we had my daughter 2 years later, and she's a mixture of Paul and I. So we all move very fast, very quickly, and make decisions fairly quickly, but we all know what Jack's like, and Jack knows what we're like. So if we're moving him too fast, he'll say, hey, slow down. You know that this isn't me. I can't do this. So all along, ever since they've been little, we've had this conversation. So what happened after that was I then went and did something called the Myers-Briggs type indicator. That's your MBTI. And this talks about people's types. And it has 16 different types. And I say to people, it doesn't box you. What it does is it gives you the freedom to be able to see who you are and understand how other people operate and get their energy and see the world. So that talks about extroversion and introversion. This is where you get your energy in the world. It talks about sensing and intuition, which is whether you see the world with your 5 senses and detail, or whether you have a big picture and you love to look at concepts and use your imagination. Then they talk about thinking and feeling, which talks about the way you make your decisions. Now, thinking people make their decisions using logic, and feeling people make their decisions using their values and in loving harmony. Very 2 different things that make a huge impact on relationships. And then there's judging and perceiving. Now, judging people love a world that is structured and organized, and perceiving people are happy to go with the flow. They're really flexible. They don't need to make a decision immediately. Once I've done that too, and I realized that a lot of Paul's, my problem was I'm an extrovert and he's an introvert, was that's why the combination was great, because knowing and understanding your temperament, your type and your temperament can be quite different amongst people. So you can be a type, but have a different temperament. So what I realized was that I was always planning going out on the weekend 2 or 3 times because I love people. And we would end up fighting by the end of that weekend because it would overload Paul, because he's an introvert. And at the time, before knowing this, I had no idea. I just thought he was bad-tempered, or, bad-tempered, really didn't want to go anywhere. Then I realized that his energy was totally sucked out by the end of the week. He talks to people all week. He's in a job where he has to be talking to people nonstop. So then I realized that I was taking the energy out of him. So what I did was I contact other people by myself, and I don't go out with him. He's cool with that. This is all good. This was actually a huge thing for us. So finding out something like that when I was 35, it just made life so different. So I have brought my children up with the knowledge and love languages. So guys, love languages are the best thing out. I also talk about those when I do talks. I have used the knowledge of personality through my whole parenting. And it has enabled me to work out how to discipline my kids, what their stresses are, what kind of way to use, let's say, when we'll be talking about emotional development. I have a family of thinkers. I'm a feeling type. So the way that I actually talk to them about their feelings often makes them feel quite sick. So I'll go in going, oh, no, you have to think about that person and how sad that might be making them feel. And they'll be going, oh. So I need to go in and say to them, look, that person's feeling sad. So it's best that you don't do that because you're hurting their feelings. So language around feelings is so important, because I go into workplaces and I talk to so many people about this, and thinking types use logic. So they want to see how to solve the problem. They want to do it logically. Feeling people want to solve the problem and do it with empathy and warmth. But when either of those is trying to solve the other person's problem, there's a lot of conflict in that resolution. Feeling people often feel that thinking people are picking on them, being unkind and mean. And I always say that if I didn't have this knowledge, I'd be in the corner, curled up, crying, if I didn't have this knowledge. Because with a family of thinkers, you have to be pretty tough. You have to, handles feeling sick. Oh, man up, mum, you'll be fine. Because I know this stuff and I know I'm okay. then that gives me that emotional resilience. My kids have emotional resilience because I've taught them what it's like to be a feeling type. So I understand the way my daughter used to say to me, sorry, not going off topic, but she'd stomp down to the bedroom when she was younger. And I'd chase her and I'd be saying, oh, look, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do it. And she'd just say, get out of my room. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago, she said to me, Mum, when you do this, it just makes me feel really sick. I hate it. You're groveling. It just feels awful. Let me lie in my bedroom, come out when I'm ready, and I'll be okay.
Wow.
So sometimes we don't even think about the impact on our kids as to what are you actually doing for them when they're like that? Maybe they actually don't need you. You know, how can you come out of your anger when you have it? You know, what does it do when I do this to you? Because we don't think that. We're just going with our natural, the way that we naturally feel that we do those things. My husband's the same. If I cry, he used to say to me, I don't know what to do with you. I don't know how to fix this. So I and my son's a similar type, but he's had me behind his back the whole way. And as you say, you can build emotional EQ. Wow. So he said to me once, Mum, what do I do when you know his girlfriend was crying? And I said, hug, don't offer advice, listen and hug. And he came back and he said, it worked. So sometimes we're expecting people to have these things naturally up their sleeve, and they don't. And the thinking types aren't being hard and mean. They're using the knowledge that they have and the innate stuff that they have. And so it just has this huge impact. Jack is a judging type who loves a structured, organized world. We're all perceiving types. So we'll go, do you want to go to the movies tonight? Yeah. All right, let's go. And we're out. He's going with his toothbrush. I'm not ready yet. So we all understand, and he will tell us off if we do that to him. But we all understand each other. I'm sitting here with kids that are 29 and 27. They use this stuff every day in their lives. They're both study, work in businesses, all the rest of it. And they understand their clients. They understand people in their study groups. They come home and we discuss what are the best ways to get the best out of the people that they're working with. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I just go, it's just something that if this helps you understand yourself for a start, because I believe that if you don't understand you, how can you actually deal with other people? If I don't understand I'm a feeling person and other people are going to be different to me, but feeling's okay, then when other people are rude to you or you feel they're rude to you or whatever, then I'm going to get down. But because of that, I don't. I look and I go, well, Kate, the way they're talking to you is merely because they have a different headset and a different perspective. And if you look into that and understand it, then you've got a wall of resilience around you. Yes. You know, if you're a person that's always late and you know who you are, like I know, I know who I am. So the perceiver often loves to do the last minute dash. Okay. So when I used to set up workshops, I'd go in the first time, a few times I did it, I'd go in 20 minutes before before the workshop started, and they realized that all my audio equipment wouldn't work. And then I'd be really stressed. So now what I've had to learn is to go in 2 hours before and set up and ensure that everything is done and organized. But that's part of a learning process, but that's because I know who I am. I know that these things are not my strengths and I have to push and get them there. My strength is that if someone changes their plans, I go, hey, cool, not a problem. I'll do that tomorrow. My son's strength is that he's there on time, organized, but if his plans change, he's very stressed. So
it's, I can see, as you said, it's such a game changer to know this stuff about yourself and your kids, because when you do, you're in an extraordinarily better position to connect and communicate with the people around you.
That's right.
That can be your kids, it can be your boss or your colleague, or your family, extended family,
yes.
things like that.
Very much so.
And as you said, you know, when people speak to you in a certain way or do something and you perceive that to be
Mm,
disrespectful or
yep,
rude or
yep.
uncaring or thoughtless, when you don't understand about personality types, correct me if I'm wrong, like
No.
does that mean we lean into getting triggered and feeling hurt and then, you know, biting back or you know, damaging those relationships potentially?
Well, very much so, because remember, you're coming at it from your headset, because you don't actually know that there's any other headset out there. You're not thinking, maybe this person really thinks differently. Maybe this person actually hasn't got the same ideas I've got. Like a lot of the time, we're just bowling in, I'm expecting you to be as empathetic as me. But no, it
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. I had a girlfriend who came to me and she was going to leave her job. And I said to her, why? She said, everyone's picking on me. So I did the Myers-Briggs type indicator with her, and she was feeling. There was not an ounce of logic, reasoning in her. And I sent her back in and I said, right, come back in a week's time and tell me, are these people being mean to you, or are they using logical language when they talk to you?
Mm.
And she came back and she said, they're all thinkers. She said, they're all people, they're not being mean. They're just using logical language. Like, you know, she might say, oh, how are you today? Is everything going really well? Yes, good, thanks. We're good. You know, like they don't need the gushy. She was very gushy. So they don't need that because it overwhelms them. And they often get a little bit more stand backish when somebody does that. It's quite overwhelming for them. So she had to change her language. So here's how we go. It's not what the action is, it's your reaction to it. So I say to people, if you're not getting what you want, you need to change your reaction to that and work out what's happening. Because we can all be hurt in life. It's really easy to get hurt and upset. But if you can change your reaction to what's happening to you and go, well, actually, I'm making a choice here. I'm making a choice not to be upset about that, or I'm making a choice to make a change the way I behave. That can make a really huge difference to you, to how you feel. I say to people, for a start, don't ever tell your kids that you're a terrible mother. I say to my kids, I'm an amazing mum and I'm bound to have had some stuff ups. This is as adults, mind you. And I'm bound to have made some stuff ups, and you can see a psychologist about that. But I did my very best for what was happening at the time. And I'm good about myself because I spoke to someone and her child was saying to her, you're horrible, you're no good. He was using words that were really adult-like. And I said to her, what do you actually say to him? And she said, oh, I apologize. I say, oh, mummy's terrible. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have been really mean. And I said, well, you're just handballing him a whole lot of ammunition
Yeah.
against you. I said, you can apologize, but you don't apologize and put yourself down and rip into yourself. You just tell him you're sorry and that people make mistakes and that you promise to do your best moving forward, and that, you know, it's an adults do make mistakes, but you don't put yourself down. You know, I never put myself down. If I make a mistake, I'll go, wow, really sorry about that. I'm going to try and do better next time. But, you know, it is a mistake. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's modeling to our kids as well, that it's okay for them to make a mistake and that no one is perfect. And I think that's one of the places or spaces in which the personality work and emotional intelligence fits in so well, because it's not about you know, judging people and when they make mistakes and things like that. It's really being accepting and giving people permission, yourself, but other people like your kids, permission to mess up and not get it right. And, you know, for our kids, maybe use hurtful language or behavior. And when I say acknowledging, accepting that they're gonna do that, and then teaching them and problem solving, you know, different ways without getting triggered, without taking it personally, without, you know, just looking through your own eyes, and knowing that that's, you know, what people do and say is a reflection on their, you know, their headset.
Very much so. And the other thing is that if you're say a judging parent, like, so you love an organized life, an organized household, and you've got a perceiving kid. Now, kids leave mess everywhere. Okay, they just do. But, and then you got your floor robe when they're a teenager. So, you know, sometimes some years are wiped out of your life. But the thing is that innately, often a judging child will be tidier than the perceiving child. But if you're a judging type, this stuff's really important for you with schooling, homework, all of that type of thing. Because my son Jack would always get his homework done on time. And I said to him one day, I said, Jack, why do you do your homework as soon as you get home from school? Because I used to like them to have a bit of a play before they sat down and did everything. And he said, because once I've done my homework, I can play for as long as I like. But until I've done that, I can't play. His headset can't do that. And he's remained like that all his life. He has to do his assignments on time. So the thing about this is that I usually draw a timeline for people. So I say the J, when they're given a job to do, their adrenaline rises and they start to do that job, and they do it almost, you know, in a straight line until they get to the end. Now, often they'll finish that job or that assignment before the deadline, because for them, it's the stress, get it out of the way. An overworked J who's got a list that's too long can be late, but that's because they've got a very long list of things that they need to do, and they're rushing because they should get rid of some of those things off their list. Now, Jack struggled when he was in year 12. He used to finish things before they were given out because he knew what the topic was going to be. Okay, so I'm sitting there going, is this kid mine? I can't believe it. Then he went to university, and he did a similar thing in university. And what he had to learn, about 3 weeks out of his first assignment that he had completed, they threw in another topic. They threw in something else he had to add in. And he was literally in tears that night. And me, I love a last minute dash. So we just ripped his essay to shreds and shoved the new information in and did that. But he was so stressed about it. So he learned through university, and he's done 2 degrees, that he has to start out of a timeline that doesn't, he has to start late. He can't start early because he knows there's going to be more information thrown in. So his greatest learning around that is that he's always going to be running on his back foot when he's at uni. My daughter, however, is a perceiving type. So all through her school life, we were doing her assignments at about 12 o'clock at night, because I just remembered I have an assignment tomorrow. And because I'm a last minute person, she and I'd sit down. It's usually 8 o'clock at night. And she and I'd sit down and go, right, okay. And because we're extroverts, we love to talk while we're doing stuff. So we were sitting there, blah, 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 you know, talking away, and we'd knock these things out of the park. Because I love sitting with my kids when they did stuff like that. So when she got to year 12, exams, you can't actually just learn the night before. So she failed a few of those in year 11 and 12. And then we worked out a pattern of studying the stuff that was just basic for a couple of weeks before the exam. And then what she would do is the really important stuff. As a P, your adrenaline at the last minute is incredible, and you learn so much better. So the last stuff she would leave to the last few days, and then the adrenaline would start to kick in because the exam's sitting right here. And that's when she would do it. Now, she and Jack got very high marks in year 12, both of them, similar and very dissimilar ways of learning. Now, when she got to uni, she loved it, because at university, everything was last minute, and then you get an extension on something, and, you know, all of this type of stuff. She did really well at uni too, but she was actually able to get back more to her old style. Now, if you're a parent and you've got a P child and they're a last minute person and you don't understand that, and you're forcing them every night to do this, this, and this, and they're rebelling, you need to sit down and look at their style of work, the way they work. They do need you as a parent to keep onto them, but they don't need to do it in your style. So it's really important to understand the styles that people have with study as well around this, particularly if you've got kids. So really important. And it goes through to an adult as well. It being an adult, you don't change. You just learn how to deal with what you're given.
Really good point that you don't change as you become an adult. It sounds like, you know, things with Jack that you mentioned when he was 3 still are relevant as an adult.
Yes.
So
yes.
Are there a few points, because I knew that we would have so much to talk about.
I know. Yes, tell me, what would you like?
What would be a few key points or some takeaways why this is so important, understanding your own and your child's personality type.
Yeah.
What are some points around why that's so important? And then where can parents get more information? Where could they reach out to you, or where could they, obviously we can mention the podcast and things, because parents might go, maybe this is why my kids and I are clashing so much and their behavior frustrates me and I want to get out of this cycle. So what would you sort of suggest? What are some points there that you want to leave us with?
Okay, some points. So I'm going to be running workshops next year. I haven't got them up on my website yet because I'm a last minute person, but I'll be getting them up. So please keep they'll be there. And if you ever want to do a one-on-one, then contact me and I can do one-on-one via Zoom. Really easy to do. Happy to do that too. I have got a book as well. And this is Who Is This Monster or Treasure in My House?
I was going to ask you, and I meant at the start, I was like, I'm going to ask her, what is
behind
her?
So you can go through this book and you can tick what kind of parent you are and what kind of child you have. Now, do remember that this is a very simplified version of Myers-Briggs type indicator. And so therefore, often for me, a practitioner is really important to actually help round things out, because I'll often have people come to workshops and they say, oh, I'm, an introvert, blah, blah. And we'll go through and they go, actually, no, because they did it online. So often you need to talk through. So you could always buy the book, then contact me and, we can do a coaching session around it and what you think and how that works. If you don't do that, I think it's kind of better to have a face-to-face session. And I really, like I say, happy to do that. I think it's so important. Start observing your kids. Start observing the language they use. If they're a really sharing, caring kid, they're probably a feeling type. If they say, I think a lot, or they say, I feel often, and the same with your partner. My husband says, you would think all the time. And I often use feel. That's my kind of language. Observe the way that they finish things, and whether they do start where they are relatively tidy and neat, whether when you're rushing out of the house, they're stressed because you're racing them. Think about the ways that you might be able to stop that by giving them time to pack up, by not racing them around the place, by spending time with them. If they're an introvert or an extroverted child, you might be forcing them to socialize too much. You might be saying, I've got a play date for you this weekend. My son actually took me at 12 and said to me, Mum, I just want you to know, I don't need as many friends as you've got. School is enough for me. So don't invite any more around. Okay, cool. What a great emotionally intact child that was. So stopped inviting people over for play dates, so to speak, whatever. And he has got the most wonderful, amazing group of friends because he keeps his friends really well, but in his time and without anyone organizing him. So take a look at that. If you've got the little extroverted one like I had as my daughter, then sure, bring on the friendships. But sometimes they don't last very long. Extroverts can be a little bit flower to flower type of thing with their friendships when they're young. So don't expect some of those friendships to be long lasting, but do encourage that socialization because it's really important for them.
Wow, there's so many good takeaways there. And I do encourage everyone, please jump over to check out the podcast. Please have a look at the links that are going to be below if you're watching on YouTube later, or they're going to be put in the description of the Facebook Live if you're watching now in Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids. And find out more information. As Kate said, become more attuned to your child and observe them and your partner and the people around you. I think it's just putting us in such a better position to have more to show up, I guess, in a more confident, calm, understanding, compassionate way in all our relationships, rather than, getting frustrated, feeling hurt, feeling wronged, being triggered, and things like that. So thank you so much for your time and your wisdom.
My pleasure. It was wonderful talking to you, and hopefully I'll be talking to some other people later. And please do download the podcast because there's a lot of great stuff for parents. I'm interviewing a lot of wonderful people, and Stephanie will be on there soon.
Yes, yeah, I'm going to jump on there now that I have bits of car trips to and things when I'm cooking. You know, now I'm getting more into podcasts and finding good ones to listen to, just to, you know, hear as I'm doing something and to learn as I'm cooking or driving or walking. So
And that totally.
thank you so much, Kate. And everyone, have a great rest of your day and stay tuned for the next interview coming up soon. All right, take care, guys.